Welcome into K-State Online. I'm Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway. And yes, folks, you are nearing the end of hearing me talk so much about it, but we are exactly 1 month away from kickoff for K-State and Iowa State, which means the Aer Lingus College Football Classic is rapidly approaching. You can still visit cats2ireland.com for all of your travel, ticket, hospitality information, and needs that you might have in these final 30 some days that there is. Is it 30 or 31 exactly? How would we quantify that?
I think it's exactly 30. I'm trying to look and see
31.
Okay.
Because
No,
July's a 31 day month. So I guess it would still work out like that. Yeah, you'd have 8 days plus 23. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I could have done that math a lot easier then.
I'm trying to figure out what it is, how long it is until we leave.
Well, just take a couple days off that. So like 28 days, 27 days.
Yeah, 27 days until we leave, because I check in for my first flight to get to Kansas City in 26 days.
Oh, well, how about that? I'm just going to, show up and see how it goes. But make sure you're going to cats2ireland.com. It's a helpful tool, even if you already have everything established for the trip over to Ireland and you think, I don't know what I'm going to do or maybe what I should try to look to do. It can still help you out there and give you a lot of information about your travels over there to experience this game between K-State and Iowa State. How we are going to do things today, though, is this is old fashioned sports talk radio type thing here. We're going to go down the line and we're going to see, do you like K-State's quarterback better than Iowa State's? Or do you like Iowa State's offensive line better than K-State's? And we're going to go position by position and just see where we would line things up and who has the most units that we would like here. Because I think it's actually a pretty fascinating conversation because of what Iowa State lost last year. You're going to have, I think, really solid debate at quarterback between Rocco Becht and Avery Johnson. Running back, I think that we would still probably side safely with K-State, but receiver gets interesting. Tight end gets interesting. Iowa State thinks highly of their tight ends, and Brahmer is going to be healthier this year, or at least they're planning on that. We know K-State's offensive line is in trouble, and then the defense will be interesting to discuss as well. So we'll just go in a natural order, Drew, and let's start with quarterback. But would you take Avery Johnson or Rocco Becht to be your quarterback?
I still think that I'd take Avery Johnson. And it's more of, I don't think that we've seen the best from Avery Johnson, like we've talked about all off season long. Like if that was the floor of what he can be, I think that we're kind of in for a fun treat. And, Iowa State last year had 2,000-yard receivers that they lost. Both went to the NFL. We've talked about that a lot, kind of in the lead up to this offseason. But Rocco Becht didn't really take that next step that you'd expect, especially with two NFL wideouts. So I think that I would just take Avery because I think that, again, you haven't really seen his peak. We've seen a lot of really good flashes. We've seen some not so good flashes. One of the not so good flashes actually came in Ames last year. But there was enough good to make me think that it's pretty safe to take him over Rocco Becht.
He also had some flashes that were good in Ames last year. I mean, that fourth down touchdown that he threw to Jace Brown to kind of keep K-State in the game was significant. Yeah, I would go Avery Johnson here. You look at what they both did last year. I think some would be surprised. I know that there's this faction of K-State fans that they want to put Iowa State on a pedestal that is significantly higher than K-State for some reason. I don't know if it's, just being natural fan type of deal where you're so down on your own that you're like, oh, well, they're doing it way better than us. And it's like, well, not really. Chris Klieman has actually won a Big 12 title. And, look at what Avery Johnson did versus Rocco Becht last year. Very similar numbers for the two quarterbacks. It's just that Avery Johnson did it with really only one guy that you would look at and say that's a number one receiver in the Big 12, or really probably top two receiver in the Big 12 on any given team. And Rocco Becht, his numbers regressed from his freshman year with two guys that got better as receivers and sent themselves to the NFL draft last year. The resources were there last year for Rocco Becht, and numbers were pretty comparable to Avery Johnson. They were very, very similar. And then you add the element that I think Avery Johnson's running ability is better than what Rocco Beck would provide you. So it's definitely similar. I think Avery Johnson is the choice, though, especially in the situation where, Rocco Beck's entering this game without his safety blankets this year. And that's something that he had the opportunity to possess last year and last game of the regular season at home. You're going to have your guys there. So I am going to give it to Avery Johnson as well. Running back. I know that Abu Sama might still scare some people. He's not even the main running back there for Iowa State. Where would you put this competition where it's essentially Hansen and Sama versus Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson for K-State?
I still think you go K-State here. Again, we haven't really seen a full Dylan Edwards. We saw a huge flash in the Rate Bowl. We saw a huge flash in his first game at Colorado. We saw some good flashes from Joe Jackson in spot duty at times last year and in the Rate Bowl. And I mean, I even go back to like when he got it in the Tulane game. I know that it didn't count, but they trusted him enough to throw him the ball in that opportunity when it arose. Iowa State, kind of a strange offensive year last year. Like, they weren't a great rushing team, and they were just an okay passing team. Like, because of that, like I lean more towards like the talent at K-State will probably shine through. Just because it's been such a weird time at Iowa State, like trying to run the ball post Brees Hall.
Yeah, they've been searching for it. That's for sure. And I think they thought that after the Abu Sama game in the snow that that's your answer right there. Unfortunately, that was probably more a product of Will Lee and the boys. I I don't know what they were doing in that game, but I would also go running back. I think Dylan Edwards is in position to be the best of those four that we talked about, and then I think Hanson's a really good running back. Carson Hanson's a good running back for Iowa State, and probably one of the better and more reliable ones in the Big 12, especially in this year where you go from so many great running backs to a lot of unknowns. And that's why we're having the conversation like, is Dylan Edwards going to be the best running back in the Big 12 next year? I still think I would give it to K-State overall because, the flashes that we've seen from it's maybe more of an exposure thing on this front because I think Dylan Edwards is the best of the four. And then if you're going to, okay, their number two versus your number two, like, yes, Abu Sama has had those big games, but also there's been the exposure part where we know that when the keys were kind of handed to him, he didn't really produce at that high of a level. And we know that Iowa State's run game in general kind of struggles, or at least did last season. So I would give it to the K-State running backs as well. Wide receiver. Let's go there now because this is going to be a fun one to talk about. K-State, you have Jace Brown come back, and then you have a lot that you had to supplement from the portal. Iowa State is going to do a lot of their receiver work through the portal this year. They ended up bringing in a couple of guys. Chase Sal from East Carolina is one that they're excited about. Like they've got some guys that are there for Rocco Beck, but you just, as K-State has found out recently, you cannot just count your eggs from the portal before they hatch. You just truly don't ever know what you're getting there. So where do you go on the receiver battle between the two teams on paper?
This is an absolutely like 50-50 split for me because I think that Jace Brown is probably the best of the receivers that will play a month from now. But there's so much unknown behind Jace Brown. There's so much unknown really at Iowa State, period. So because of that, like I probably lean slightly to K-State, but like it's not with a lot of conviction. It's more of like thinking that Jace Brown is probably the best of all of them playing in the game. This could come back and I look like a total idiot, but like when you have two 1,000-yard receivers and you're going to just like instantly try and replace them with guys from the portal, I get a little gun shy on like how it will look game one, and like to a certain extent, like K-State is kind of doing that behind Jace Brown, but at least that they return their number one receiver.
Yeah, I think that's where the argument would be. It's really going to come down to, I think on paper, you would have more evidence that Sal and Townsend, who was the other transfer receiver they got from UCF, maybe you would think that the combined they're a little bit better off there. This is going to be determined probably by what Dron Tibbs can do for you if you're
Yeah.
K-State. I think that I am with you as well, and that I would lean K-State here. I think it's beneficial to have your top receiver back, and it's not just a top receiver, but it's a guy that was very productive in the Big 12 last season. So this is we talked about quarterback being tight. I think this is the tightest one so far because there is the unknown, and I do like what Iowa State brought in, but I would give the nod to K-State here as well. Now, offensive line is a little bit of a different story where you look and Iowa State's going to return, I think, 3 or 4 starters from last season to their offensive line. They seem to have a pretty good idea of, for the most part, what it's going to look like. And we know even before the last couple of days, K-State was still jostling some things around now. And on top of that, now the guy that seemed locked in as their best offensive lineman, his status is totally up in the air. So I think this is an easy one that you give to Iowa State right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is one where I think you got to give it to Iowa State just because there's a lot more known commodities. I mean, in this era of college football, college athletics, going into like game one, you're more looking at who is a known commodity, and Iowa State has more of those along the offensive line. It's kind of like what we talked about like just now. At receiver, Jason Brown is a known commodity at the Big 12 level. That's why we went K-State at receiver.
Yeah. I think right now you have to give it to Iowa State because they know the most about their unit right there, and guys that you're entrusting with what can be done. Final offensive group, tight end. This is a fascinating one because K-State does like to tout how productive they were at tight end last year. They were quite proficient in scoring touchdowns with their tight ends last season, but their usage outside of basically inside the 12-yard line was a little less frequent. And I think that Iowa State feels like with a guy like Ben Brahmer, they probably have a little bit more of a playmaking aspect with their tight ends, but that could change this year for K-State. You probably see more of it from Garrett Oakley, and certainly we know that K-State has the tool to use a guy like Lincoln Cure, and you still have Braden Lofton. Will Ancio was getting some good mentions down at Big 12 Media Day, and Will Swanson is there as well. So you've got a loaded room with K-State. It's just a matter of, I guess, what your perspective on it will be. So what is that for you, Drew?
I think that, again, it's another close one because it's more of like the whole is better than the sum of the parts with what we like really know about these two positions. And to be honest with you, I don't really care about yardage. Give me anybody that can score touchdowns. And the K-State tight end room was the best of that in the entire country last year. So I would lean slightly towards K-State. But a lot of that just comes from Ben Brahmer being hurt last year and just not knowing what that's going to look like. I mean, you've heard us talk about that a lot, and that's how it goes nowadays. Is you don't really know until you see it on the field or see it on the basketball court. I mean, we were two of the people that really praised what K-State basketball did last offseason, and then when they got on the court, didn't look great.
Yeah, fair. This is a tough one. I think we saw towards the end of last year more flashes of how K-State would like to use the tight end at times. You look over the last month of the season, Garrett Oakley went out and he didn't catch a ball in the game against Cincinnati, but against Houston, he had 3 catches, 3 against Arizona State, 4 against Iowa State, 2 in the game against Rutgers. He scored 2 touchdowns over that stretch. A bulk of his yardage came during that timeline. I think Officially, he ended up with right around like 150 yards in the final 4 games of the season that he caught a ball in. So 150 yards off of 12 catches. That makes up for more than half of his yardage. K-State was trying to get the ball to him more. He had more opportunities to show as a playmaker, and I think you're only going to probably expand upon that with guys getting older that you trust, and then bringing in a guy like Lincoln Cure. And because, again, you're in a spot where if you're Iowa State, kind of like K-State in some areas, you're having to bank on a guy that, yes, you think he's really good, but his production was limited last year because of his time on the field. And so I think because there's so much emphasis and effort put into tight end, I think I'll give it to K-State too. But that's one that we'll see, because I get what you're saying, that you don't care about the yardage thing, but I think the yardage production by tight ends is far more important than them just hawking touchdowns from everybody in the red zone. Because
if you can put up 6 points, you can have 6 yards and 4 touchdowns, and I'll be okay.
yeah, but does that really make you mean your tight ends are better, or is it the other guys getting you down the field, like DJ Giddens and Jace Brown last year for K-State?
No, I mean that's valid. It is tough to really grade how a tight end does, because I mean we've just been talking about yardage and touchdowns. I mean, half of their position is like also blocking, and we haven't mentioned that yet. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, let's flip to the
calculus.
defense. The defense here. Defensive line is a fascinating one because both teams are in a position where they bring back a good stable of interior defensive linemen. Dom Orange is going to hold things down for Iowa State. He's probably, with Dante Corleone, one of the best defensive linemen on the inside in the Big 12. Where do you give the defensive line battle? Because Iowa State is having to try and build up some new edge rushers. We know that K-State is going to be relying on guys more that they were around last year. They played some, but you are putting a little bit more weight onto them in terms of what they have to carry for you. So where do you give the defensive line battle?
I think I'm going to lean towards Iowa State. I know that K-State has a lot of guys that they can really throw at you, but really, we haven't seen anybody in like extended game action outside of you had Uso Sayamalo and Damian Alalio and Cody Stufflebean. Tobias and Sami really just did a lot of pass rush work last year, except for towards the end of the year. And then the rest of the guys, like it's just flash plays that they've made, like Ryan Davis when he came in, or when Chidi Obiizers came in, or Jordan Allen's came in. And I think that probably the best, and this is where, like, if it's tough, like it was at quarterback, like it was at wide receiver, like it kind of has been at tight end, like when it's that tight of a battle, I probably lean towards who has the best one. And Dominique Orange is probably the best of the defensive linemen that we've talked about, or at least the most proven coming into this game.
I think that's where I would decide it too, is that right now the best known commodity that either side has is Dominique Orange for Iowa State. And so, if you have a great interior guy like that, it can make it a little bit easier on guys on the edge. I will give it to Iowa State right now, but that, again, we're doing this a month before the season starts. I fully expect by the end of the year, I do think the production and what we see from the K-State defensive ends will be really good. I think we will view the K-State defensive line as better than Iowa State by the end of the season, but I can't guarantee that right now. And what I could guarantee is that I think Dom Orange is a pretty good player. But we've heard about Ryan Davis, and the expectation would be that he's going to be phenomenal this year. He's got to show it. Tobias and Sanmi, you want to see him go out and show it and take over that mantle. And then whoever else K-State's going to try and run out there at defensive end as well. Moving back a step in the defense, linebackers. This is a fascinating one. K-State probably has the best one in Austin Romaine, but both teams are bringing back a lot of linebackers with playing experience for them. And that includes Iowa State too, who, they're going to bring Caleb Bacon back, who spent a lot of last year hurt. And so then you got, another guy that got starting experience last season because of the injury. Where do you go with the linebacker battle?
And this one, I think that I lean towards Iowa State. K-State has the best one, but I think Iowa State probably has the best unit. Like Caleb Bacon, we'll see what he is like because again, coming off of a season injury, ending injury from game one of last year, but he was phenomenal in 2023. And then, but you mentioned it right off the bat with Bacon being hurt last year. They got a lot of guys record a lot of stats at linebacker, and K-State's linebackers. We'll see. Austin Romaine, I think, is an absolute stud. And then you're just hoping that like Desmond Purnell or Gabe Powers or even somebody like Ralph Ortiz like continues to keep coming along and take a jump to be kind of like an honorable mention area Big 12 linebacker. Just because Austin Romaine, I think, could be an All-American this coming season with no injuries and how he played last year. But Iowa State's linebackers, I think, are probably better as a whole than just Austin Romaine at K-State. And then guys who have been solid, but nothing like spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at Iowa State, who dealt with injuries a lot last year at linebacker throughout the season. Their third leading tackler from a season ago, the best non-secondary tackler was Cooper Ebel, and he may not even factor into being, in your traditional starting set of linebackers that would be on the field. Like they're just very strong and known strong there. And while yes, you're banking on health for guys that are going to probably be their main core players, they have proven production still, and that will come. That's where Austin Romaine is the best one out of these guys. This is a narrow battle as well. I would also give it to Iowa State. I just think the collection of their unit is probably better and more reliable than K-State's right now, because on the K-State side of things, you don't have to worry about Austin Romaine. You, for the most part, know what you're going to get out of Des Purnell. But, even when we talked to him last week, he was pretty transparent about, I think, thinking that there were some things he needed to do better this year than last year. You brought in Gabe Powers because you have to replace Austin Moore. And then the depth behind that, Asa Newsom has gotten hurt in consecutive years. And like you're banking on that kind of like, is he going to be able to be there and healthier? What's he even going to look like in a totally healthy year? So I would give linebacker to Iowa State as well.
This next one, I think, is the most fascinating one of them all because I've been doing some research on Iowa State's and I've been doing some research on K-State's and just talking to more people like K-State's. And I don't know if anybody really feels great about this next position coming up.
Yeah, both teams might be a little scared here. Secondary is next up. You've got corner and safety. We'll just pool them together here because I think that makes it more fascinating because both teams are in a position where they're replacing a lot in this group. And the thing that you would look at is you'd say, okay, both have two guys that they're really confident in that come back. For Iowa State, that would be Jeremiah Cooper. And then for K-State, it would be VJ Payne. But once you get past those guys, you look around and you say, who's stepping up for us? So I mean, this one is really tight as well, but for a totally different reason than just you've got so many guys and you know where the talent is. This is, you don't know at all what you have.
Yeah, I would still probably lean towards Iowa State just slightly because you mentioned Jeremiah Cooper. I thought that you were going to say Jontez Williams was going to be the guy.
Exactly. You've got two phenomenal guys to kind of base yourself with.
Yeah, Iowa State has at least two guys that are proven from last year playing at Iowa State, playing at the Big 12 level with Jontez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper. K-State, I really like Zayshawn Rich. I think that he could be a future NFL guy. He's that level of good and has that level of potential. But we haven't really seen it outside of a half at the Rate Bowl, which, by the way, we weren't there because it was the day after Christmas. Highway robbery that he wasn't defensive MVP because he was that good in the second half.
Who was defensive MVP? I don't even remember.
Austin Moore. Highway robbery that Zayshawn Rich didn't get it because he was the best player on the field in the second half when K-State was on defense.
I would have given it to Daniel Cobbs personally.
Well, he did have a pick.
Yeah, I think like his only snap that he was on the field. So
But
I joke about that.
I think that Zayshawn Rich can be really good. Amarian Fortenberry has the trajectory to be a very, very good corner at this level too. But game one will be his first time playing at the Power Four level. Jaden Rowe barely played at Oklahoma because of injuries, so we don't really know what he's like. Donovan McIntosh, again, kind of like Zayshawn Rich, started very slow in the Rate Bowl, but ended up being really, really good. Safeties, VJ Payne's a stud. He looks like an NFL safety just looking at him. Gunnar Maldonado was amazing in 2023, but kind of like we've dinged some guys for coming off of injuries, he's coming off of an injury. So what does that look like? And then Colby McAllister also coming off of an injury. Quay Moss, this will game one will be his first time playing not just at the Power Four level, but at the FBS level. So there's kind of a lot of unknowns there. Iowa State, you have two proven guys because Jontez Williams was second team All Big 12 by the coaches last year. Jeremiah Cooper got a lot of playing time, was really good last year. But like even they have some position or some guys that I'm like, if this is who you're really relying on, do you feel great about that going into game one? One of those is Ben Miyagi, who was a wide receiver and then turned corner during his past offseason, and he's in contention to be that second corner. And then another one is a transfer from Lindenwood, Trey Bell. So like there's so many spots here where you're just
And they
kind
got
of
shredded by bad KU last year.
yes, and you're just kind of thinking and hoping that a lot of these guys develop if you're either of these teams because if there is one huge question mark going into this game for both teams, it is what's going on in the secondary.
Yeah, there's question marks galore for both these teams right now in the secondary. I would give it to Iowa State. You have two high end guys that you can rely on there. K-State has a really good one in VJ Payne, but even then, like I still think there's another level that you're going to want to see VJ Payne get to. So I would give it to Iowa State, and they certainly load up and make themselves think that they're in a good spot. Let's go. Let's go to special teams now. Kicker specifically, I think this is an easy one. I would take the guy that went into Kinnick Stadium and hit a game winner pretty fearlessly last year over two guys that K-State doesn't know what to expect out of them, and like very clearly they don't want to give the job to Leighton Simmering because they were going to give it to Cub Patton, it seemed. Then they bring in a JUCO kicker. So K-State's got issues to figure out there. I would give it to Iowa State because of Kyle Conrarty.
Yeah, this is the easiest one on the entire thing because Iowa State actually has a kicker that they feel comfortable with, and K-State, I mean, Chris Kleiman, so they probably won't know who's going to be their kicker until they get to Ireland. So pretty easy one.
Where would you go in terms of the rest of special teams? So kick, punt return, that kind of stuff, the coverage, because it's one of the areas where K-State struggled last year too, where you felt like they gave up a handful of chunky extra yards at times on kick returns. And certainly outside of Dylan Edwards' punt return against Arizona, there wasn't much else to write home about what K-State did in that game. But where would you go on that side?
I still would lean towards K-State because neither of these teams have been great special teams units the last handful of years. I mean, we talked about how bad K-State special teams was a year ago. Going into the Iowa State game last year, at least I believe I'm remembering this right, K-State was still ranked higher in the SP Plus than Iowa State was in special teams. So I would lean towards K-State again, but not a lot of conviction because I'm not overly sold that Dylan Edwards is going to be their primary returner.
Yeah, if you look last season at how this worked out, Iowa State only tried to take 10 kicks back all of last year in 14 games, so they weren't overly keen on doing that. And then if you go into the punt return game, they tried taking 14 back, which put them tied with K-State outside of the top 10. So there weren't many punt return attempts there. So I think that they are a team that they're looking to maybe strike when they think something's there. K-State has at least a few more guys that you'll put back there occasionally where I think they say, hey, we trust you to maybe try and do something for us. So that's a slight edge to K-State, but I think more than anything, just because you like the athletes that K-State might put back there as opposed to what is going to transpire. Because both teams, it's very clear they are not excited or energetic about what they're going to put on the field there and what they can do.
We've only talked about returns, but K-State has been pretty keen to blocking punts the last handful of years as well.
That's true.
And especially it feels like early on in the season, they're pretty good at blocking punts. Now, why is that? Who knows?
Well, probably because they play crappy teams typically.
Well, I mean,
in the year.
I mean, that is true, but it's not like they've had some blocked punts in Big 12 play. I mean, that sparked them to get back in the game against Texas in 2023.
Fair. We'll see. I mean, it's not like there isn't history there between K-State and Iowa State and blocked kicks. So, all right, final tally here. You get a point if you get the mark from both Drew and I. So let's go with K-State at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is what we got there. And then Iowa State 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well, what do you know? How would that work out? 10-10 is how that split would go. There wasn't even one that Drew and I decided to go separate of each other, which
it's almost like the game is almost a pick.
Yeah, we just spent 30 minutes telling you exactly what you probably already knew. K-State and Iowa State are going to have a battle on their hands, especially when you factor in going overseas to Ireland to play the game. And also just kind of what we knew from how the matchup was looking, that I think you're more confident in K-State's offense and you're more confident in Iowa State's defense going into this, and it's going to make for a really intriguing matchup. And I think the way that I would look at it is that there's a better chance that K-State's, if you like the offense better, that's good, because this isn't going to surprise many people if you followed my logic for a long time, whether I was on the game or I've been doing this. I'd rather have a good offense against a good defense than an okay offense against an okay defense, because we know the randomness of defense. They're going to make some things happen still. A good offense beats a good defense any day of the week.
No, I'm with you. I'd rather have a good offense than an okay offense facing an okay defense. So,
but yeah,
I'm just fascinated. We're a month away, and it doesn't really feel real yet. Like, I don't know if it's gonna feel real until we leave for Dublin.
Might feel real tomorrow. For those that get to be at practice to see what's going on there. Derek Young will be there for us. I will not be, unfortunately. K-State did not schedule this far enough ahead of time to where I could get my wife to move her doctor's appointment. So dad duty tomorrow morning for me instead of football duty, which would be a lot more fun and appealing. But we'll be back tomorrow over here on the KSO show talking more K-State and Big 12 football. And then Friday, KSO Classic, we look at the 2002 Holiday Bowl between K-State and Arizona State, now conference opponents. So that is what the rest of the week looks like right now. And then we'll start anew next week and go from there. Plenty of stuff still coming your way over at KStateOnline.com and On3. So head over there to get your most extensive coverage of K-State and college sports and get your first week for just $1 when you sign up. So you get to see everything. But we've got at KSO. You get to comment, be a part of the community over there. You get to see all the updates from On3's national team, all the rivals recruiting stuff. And the best part about being a member at KSO and On3, you get to see every other team's message board. So if you want to see what Iowa State is saying a month out from this game, you're going to get to know. If you're trying to figure out, how am I going to make fun of a KU fan today, you can go see what they're saying over on Jayhawk Slant. If for some reason you are just fascinated by Tulsa football, to go figure it out. You can go look at the Tulsa board. Go for it. It's there for you, and you can do it all with K-State Online and On3. So for Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening today. We are back again tomorrow with a brand new KSO show.